when we were childminding, we actually looked after some home educated children when we were childminding, and then we got another like insight into it as like a way of life. And we became friends with some of the parents who were home educating. And then I think like the word then got out that I was tutoring as well as childminding.
Hello, my name's Jenna. I'm an online primary tutor, and today I'm chatting to Laura about how to quit teaching and become a tutor who works with the home education market. If you are a tutor watching this video, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining me today, Laura.
Hello, it's so nice to be here.
It's lovely. Now, we got in touch on Facebook and we started chatting. I was really interested in your journey, so we'll get cracking. So the first thing I'm going to ask you then is, what is a MOD school and why is it different to other schools?
Okay, yeah. So MOD stands for Ministry of Defence, and these are schools that are, well, they used to be dotted around in quite a few different places, but now it's mainly Germany and Cyprus. There are a couple in other places across the world, but it's where there are British military bases, they have the schools where all the children of like the soldiers and the army officers go for their schooling. So it's very much like a British school. We still follow the British national curriculum, but yeah, just on an army base.
Oh, so does it look like a normal school when you walk in, or is there anything military related?
Yeah, well, I worked in two different ones when I was in Germany. So my first one wasn't actually on the base itself. It was kind of a couple of miles away, and it was more of a purpose-built school. So it looked very much like you'd expect a normal school to look, and we had a teepee in the in the field, which was really good. And then the second school I worked in, you had to go onto the actual military base. So when you drive in the morning, it's obviously guarded by like guys with guns, which is quite
Oh,
unusual.
wow.
And yeah, you go through and you've got all the military barracks and yeah, all the army buildings, and then the school was right at the end. We had the secondary school and the primary school. Yeah, when you're inside, it was very much like an ordinary school, but obviously, yeah, getting there, it felt entirely different in that military environment.
And what about the children? Would they see all of that as well coming into school?
Yeah, it was the only way you could go in because you had to have like a army pass because you had to be, an official visitor, or you had to sign in to actually be allowed on, if you see what I mean.
And how did they react, or was it just normal?
Oh, it's completely normal because they've grown up with that. So yeah, the military kids, lots of them, they will have been in like three different schools by the time they were 10. Um,
Right.
Similar setups, unless they were children of the teachers, in which case they tended to stay, for longer.
So, how did you end up in Germany teaching in MOD schools?
So I went to a university outside Plymouth called Marjon. And when I was there in the second year, you had the opportunity to choose whether you went on a placement in Cyprus or Germany, as they had links with the military. So my friends and I were like, oh, let's do Germany. That'd be really fun. So we applied for the placement and we had interviews to go out there. And then, yeah, all of us actually got chosen, my friends and I. And we went out, it would have been I think 2012, and we had 3 months out there. So we flew over in the September for the beginning of the term, and then worked there for the 3 months, and then flew back. And then in actually that was it no, it was my third year placement, because then I applied for the job to work in an MOD school, and you like applied to the pool, it was called. So you went to London and had an interview, and if you passed the interview you got put into the pool, and then the head teachers could choose who they wanted out of those people, um, from all the schools in like Cyprus and Germany. And then I luckily got my school that I did my placement at. So
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So that pool, was that a military school pool? Because I remember I've never taught in military schools. We had something like a pool, but it kind of disappeared. Was it that kind of thing, like just a normal teaching one or a particular
it,
to
yeah, it
MOD?
was just for Ministry of Defence schools that we applied
Oh.
for.
And were there any other vetted checks that you had to do?
Yeah, we had to do like a police check. I think it was just all the usual stuff really. Um, I think yeah, the additional one was like a police check. Can't really remember. It was so long ago.
Oh. Now, when you trained to be a teacher, what year groups did you train for?
I did a real mix. So in my first year placement, I was in year five, and then second year I went to London and I was in year one. And then in your third placement, you were supposed to go with the key stage that you wanted to do. And I
Right.
always knew I wanted to teach key stage two,
Yeah.
really. But then I was placed in another year one class, which I still loved. So yeah, these days I do teach all the ages from the age 4 to 14. So
Oh, wow. And then when you went out for your final placement, what year was that?
that was year one.
Oh, okay, right. And how was that?
Yeah, it was great. That was the one in Germany. So I had a class it was quite a small class. I think there were about 20 children. The class
Mm.
sizes were much smaller in the military schools that I was in, compared to the UK.
And how was the workload abroad? Was it the same as in the UK
I
or
would
was it more
say much
flexible?
better.
Oh,
It
okay.
I mean, it was, yeah, the class sizes being smaller obviously made it much less marking. Um, the parents' afternoons didn't obviously take so long. And we used to have this, it was really nice. So whenever it was a parents' afternoon, my head teacher would like have people covering our classes. So we'd actually start them at 1 in the afternoon. So we weren't at school until like 8 o'clock in the evening. So we do them from like 1 until 5, which was
Okay.
nice. And yeah, I found it a very relaxing place to work. Like our head teacher completely trusted us, and
Mm.
it was just a really nice atmosphere. It was just a good vibe.
And was there much observation of teachers or anything like that?
Yeah, there was. It was still, yeah, all of the, half term observations, especially in my NQT year, I obviously had loads of those. And we still did all the book monitoring. It just felt very, I don't know, it was just the vibe, I think.
Ah,
Everybody, it was just such a happy place to work. It was
oh,
great.
that's lovely because it's hard to find somewhere like that in a school. So now, as well as teaching, you did other roles. Can you tell me about your maths lead role?
Yeah, so I can't even remember how many years I've been teaching. This was in my second school, but both the schools I worked at actually had the same head teacher. So I kind of moved from one, and then that one closed down, and then I moved to a different one, which was like 20 minutes away. And I'd been a class teacher for about 5 years, and then I applied for the job of maths lead, which I then got, which was amazing because that's really what I wanted to do. And I was in charge of just improving maths from the early years up to year six. So I set up a website called Truependous Tables, and
Oh,
I would lead quite a lot of meetings like every few weeks with like a new little thing that we trial. So the main thing I did was I introduced times table lessons. So every Friday morning we taught times tables explicitly for like 20 minutes. And we kind of took out all of the multiplication and division from the curriculum. And because in White Rose, they've set it out to do that for like 6 weeks, haven't they?
yeah.
So I kind of removed that, giving more time for everything else. And we teach multiplication and division along with the times tables every Friday. And we did like all the different laws of multiplication, and we'd have on the website I set up all different activities that people could do, and I had a kind of long-term plan of each year group and what times tables they would do for however many weeks, because the idea was by the end of year 4 they were supposed to know them all. And I was saying if by the end of Key Stage 1 they knew the 2s, 5s, 10s and 3s, then it makes it much easier when they get into year 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that is still on my website, so I still use it now.
Oh,
Still
that's really
exactly
good.
wanting
That's
to
helped
know.
you for the future then, really,
Yeah,
that like past you
it really
sorted
has.
that out.
Because I also I put all sorts of areas of maths on, so I've got all like fraction stuff on there, because obviously there are links in all units of maths one way or another with times tables. So there's lots of different lesson ideas and stuff that I put on there.
Where do you think that passion for times tables, maths came from?
I think it's because when I was at primary school, I didn't really get maths and I didn't love it. I just found it really confusing, and I remember being kept in at break time to try and learn long multiplication.
Oh
And
no.
I just couldn't. I just didn't get it. And then I only actually learned how to do long multiplication as like a 20-year-old when I had to teach it. And then I learned some just way more, visual ways of learning it myself. And then I really enjoyed teaching children in a more fun, creative way. So when I was maths leader, it was all about trying to show everybody that maths can be creative and it's not just a black and white concept. There's loads of ways that you can make it more of like an exploration, a more investigative, and use all these concrete resources.
Oh, that's lovely because so many people I talk to, teachers or otherwise, have a real fear of maths from a young age and they just don't like it. I had a maths tutor growing up because I just couldn't get it. It was so stressful. But I was
Mhm.
talking to another tutor and they were like, we don't know why it's like that. Like, why so many people? And like, I had really good maths teachers when I was in secondary school. So I don't know where that
Yeah.
fear like came from for a
It
lot of
is.
us.
I think when I was at school, we didn't really have concrete resources. I know we did have deans. I remember that.
Yeah.
We didn't really use it to do more complicated things like fractions or decimals or yeah, I just remember it being a lot of just doing sums. But I don't know, my memory might be skewed.
So what's your opinion of math schemes then?
I do really like white rays, so I tend to follow it very loosely just to get each unit in. But like I said, I tend to take out all the times table stuff, and I still teach times tables at the beginning of every lesson, because now I tend to teach kids just once per week in my groups. So 10 to 15 minutes of each lesson, we just do times tables skills, and then the rest of the lesson will be like the main unit, whether it's fractions or space or something like that. So yeah, I pick and choose from there, but I also use Enrich quite a lot
Oh
for
yeah, that's a good website.
games. Yeah, I like Enrich. um I pick and choose some things from Twinkle, so some of the games I might adapt, or I'll use it and do it in a more like concrete way with resources. I use a lot of Instagram accounts for inspiration. So like
Yeah.
Maths Corner Worcester, love that one. Fix It Maths,
Oh, I
uh,
haven't heard of that one.
basic ones. And
Oh,
sometimes I see an idea on one of theirs, and then I'll be like mulling it over in my mind, and then I'll like adapt it slightly or add something to it. So yeah, it's nice having those places to go for inspiration.
yeah, as a young teacher, I used to love like looking at different resources and things. I love Pinterest because
Yeah,
that's always got some really fun, like things that you'd never think of ever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's really interesting. So then, why did you decide to quit teaching then? What kind of initiated that process?
It was kind of beyond my control in some ways. So we were made redundant, which was expected because the military were withdrawing from Germany. And there was going to be one school left out there, which I could have applied to work at, but I was like 8 months pregnant at the time when we were made redundant. And my husband and I thought it would be a good opportunity to just do something completely different. So we got a van had it converted, and then decided that we'd take our new baby around Europe for a year was the plan.
Oh,
So that was it was 2019. So it was like the summer of 2019. And then when she was about 8 weeks old, we did a few like local trips. So we went to Wales and just did some like woofing jobs. And then it was about it was January that we went on this road trip. So we went to France, Spain, and Portugal. And we were intending on staying there for months and months and months, but then COVID obviously happened.
oh,
So yeah, annoyingly, like 3 months into our trip, we had to drive from southern Portugal back to North Devon.
wow.
It was insane with a baby. It was like 19 hours of driving, but obviously we did it over a couple of days. Yeah, and then we were just like back in the UK. Didn't really have anything to do because obviously we were planning on having another 6 months out of work. But while we were away in Portugal, we'd kind of made a few business plans and we come up with some ideas, and we thought, oh, we could set up a childminding business, and then we can look after our own child as well as like other people's children. So that was the plan. We both did like the course, but when lockdown happened and the schools were shut, lots of teachers were putting things out on Facebook like, oh, I'm happy to help. So I was like, oh, I'll do that because I'm more than happy to help people if they're struggling. And I just put a thing out, and then I said I'll do like an hour free tuition a day. If you like message me, I'll book you in. And then I had quite a few people booked in for like the free tuition. And then from there, some of the parents said, oh, can you just do this every week and I'll pay you? And then I think a couple of months later, I set up as being self-employed because I had enough people to kind of start this tuition business. I'm just going to close my window because someone's mowing the grass. Yeah, so then I set up that, and then we moved back to Devon, and then we set up the childminding as well. So we had like a double, edged business in a way.
That's interesting how it naturally came about
Yeah,
and something that
accidentally.
you didn't expect, I imagine.
Yeah, because weirdly, like online tutoring wasn't even in the one of my business plans. Like we had pages of ideas, and that wasn't even in there. But it just happened by accident.
So before we go on with your tutoring, did you know anything about the home education market prior to tutoring?
Not really. I mean, I was always quite interested in it as that like alternative way of life. And it was something my friends and I talked about, and we thought, oh, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to be free from that like 9 to 5 routine and just, live life without having that really rigid structure. So I was kind of, intrigued by it. And when we were childminding, we actually looked after some home educated children when we were childminding, and then we got another like insight into it as like a way of life. And we became friends with some of the parents who were home educating. And then I think like the word then got out that I was tutoring as well as childminding. So I started the home ed community, like said, oh yeah, we'd be interested in online lessons because at the time it was still like COVID was still a massive thing. So I started teaching the home ed community online, and I had so there were some local ones that I had online, and then a lot of home ed from all across the UK. Some who decided that the parents had decided they weren't going to put them back in school even when COVID was over. They just decided, oh no, we really liked it, we're going to continue home educating. So
It's interesting that you had an idea about it because I never heard of it until like lockdown, like until it wasn't really proper home education during lockdown. It was kind of do your best and have a go, see what happens. So I honestly, before lockdown, I just thought every child went to school. I had no idea. So do you remember where you heard about it before the childminding? Had you known people?
Did I know any? I I don't think so. I think it was just like I knew of, yeah, the concept was just,
Oh, okay.
it's a Devon thing.
Ah, that's interesting then. So, how long have you been tutoring officially from then?
So 4 years. So April 2020 was when I officially like set up as being self-employed.
Right. So you initially started off with online. That
Yeah.
was the way you did it. Okay then. And how did online learning look
So
for
I
you?
had, I think at one point I had about 26 lessons a week and I had Mondays off. So I had a real range of different people. So I had some one-to-ones and I think I had about 8 group lessons. So I had um 2 different age maths groups, 2 different aged English groups. I had a virtual playground that was really fun.
Oh,
I'm trying to think of, it seems like another lifetime to be honest. And then I had, yeah, a few one-to-ones, and one of them I taught him 4 days a week. He lived in Dubai, and I think I taught him for 2 hours a day, 4 days a week for about
wow.
18 months, which was really interesting. Yeah, and then I had a mix of, most of it was daytime, but then I was also doing some evenings as well. So it was really full on because I also had a really young child. So, and I was childminding in all my breaks.
Oh, wow.
It was quite a full on couple of years.
What's a virtual playground, if you don't mind me asking?
So it was like a social club.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I'd play games like Werewolf. I don't know if you've heard of Werewolf.
No, I don't think so.
A social deduction game. It's amazing. Um, so yeah, we used to play that. We used to play loads of kind of party games, but we play them online. So have you heard of Fish Fingers?
No, where have I been?
So Fish
Why have we not heard of
Fingers.
these games?
It's where you have somebody, well, everybody would turn off their cameras, and I'd message one person saying fish fingers, and they had to say fish fingers in a weird voice. And then
Oh,
they'd all have to change their name to like anonymous, because obviously it would flash up otherwise saying so and so is talking. So we had to do that. And then everybody would have to guess who said fish fingers. I'm trying to think. We had so many games. Categories. I used to play that online. At one point, I hired a goat to come into our virtual playground.
you hired a goat.
There was this farm, and it became this viral thing in lockdown where you could pay £5 for a goat to interrupt your Zoom calls.
An actual goat, like a real, oh my gosh.
So they just randomly like come onto the camera, but we had about 5 goats come in, and that was really fun.
That's so random.
It was so random. Ah, those were the days.
Oh, so then how did obviously lockdown calm down and you carried on your tutoring? What made you then, what did you decide to do next with your tutoring?
So lots of people wanted to just stay online. Lots of my students, well, a lot of them actually, because they were so far away, so I couldn't have, physically taught them face to face. So, and I've still got some of my original ones now. So I've had some of them for 4 years, which has been incredible. Like I've had them from like year 4, and they're now going to be going into year 8. So that's been
Oh,
amazing. You
wow.
never get that, do you? As a teacher in a class, you'd have them for like 1 year, maybe 2. But yes,
Yeah.
it's been nice to have, and some of my homeschool groups I've had for about 3.5 years. Yeah, so naturally, some of the online kind of dropped off over the next year, and then I made more room to have face-to-face homeschool groups, and that just kind of grew over quite a long time, probably over like a year and a half. I grew from having just one homeschool maths group to then it was a maths and English group. Then I introduced another maths group with a younger age, and then they also wanted English. So then I had 2 maths and English groups. Then I introduced a third one. Then I introduced a board game club because it was like virtual playground, but obviously in real life. Yeah, so it just grew gradually over a couple of years, and now I've got predominantly groups that I teach face to face. and I
Oh,
still have
wow.
3 online lessons, but that's it.
And where do you do your face-to-face groups?
So I've got a little classroom in my garden. So when we moved
Oh,
into the house, it was like this, rotten old shed, but it was actually made of bricks and they were clad in wood. So one of my friends renovated it for me in exchange for me tutoring his daughter. So I tutored her for about a year, and he did up my whole shed and insulated it and everything. And then I had new windows fitted. And then recently, in the last year, I've had a sliding door put on, which has made it feel so much more spacious. Yes, I have a max of 8 children up there. Um,
ah. And how have you decorated it? Like, have you made it like a classroom? Or because some
um,
home ed children I've worked with, they don't want any reference
yeah.
to a school environment.
uh,
So how have you approached that?
It's hard because I ideally, in an ideal world, I'd want it to be, 3 times the size and have some tables and some bean bags. But because of the space, we've got bean bags to sit on and we have clipboards. I've got little lap tables for when I have like 2-to-1s or 1-to-1s. And I've also got just loads of storage at one end where I've got all the concrete resources and everything. Yeah, you have to look on my Instagram. I've got the picture. But
Oh, I will do.
it's an orange rug because orange is my favorite color. It's orange on the
Ah,
outside. um,
oh,
yeah, and it's obviously you have to go up the steps to get to my garden. And then there's a little patio area where we have snack time if it's nice and sunny. Then I've got a grass area with a little pirate ship. And then the classroom's right at the back.
wow. So, what advice would you give to a new tutor starting out from the very beginning, based on what you've learned over the years?
Go for it, like take the leap. And the first thing I would do is just come up with a business name, get a logo, and that's almost like manifesting it, is how I feel about how mine started. And then once you've got it out there and it's got a legitimate name and everything, you can start advertising or you can post in local community groups
Mm.
and just get the word out there. And then I found the most valuable thing was word of mouth. So once it got established a little bit, people then talk and they say, oh, Laura's doing that. You can get in touch with her and book onto a group. Or sometimes offering like a freebie. I don't do this anymore, but like way back when I started, I offered like free trials, like for half an hour to,
Mm.
people could see before they committed.
Oh. Well, as well as being a busy tutor, you've also done other things like writing books. Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, so when we were on our big road trip around Europe, my husband and I had this idea for a picture book based on our bright orange van, because we thought he looked like really arrogant when he was parked up in a car park with all these like white motorhomes, and it was like bright orange van. And then we got this whole plot about how he was really arrogant and mean, but then every time he was mean to other camper vans, his fuel tank emptied a bit. And then he learned over time that, yeah, if you're mean, his fuel tank went down. And then when he was kind, it filled up. So that was the main concept. And then we just like made the story a little bit more interesting. So we were thinking, oh, why has he got this magical power? And then we came up with the idea that he was struck by a magical rainbow when there was a storm. So when he was in the factory, he started off as a grey van, but then he was struck by this powerful magic, which meant that his fuel gauge was fueled by kind of kindness. So
Mm.
he meets different vans on his journey. And then right at the end, he meets a van who's really mean and arrogant to him. And then he gives back the like wisdom that he's learned along the journey.
Oh,
So,
what a nice concept of a story. And it came from something that meant something to you.
yeah, it was so funny how it all came together. But then it was on the back burner for a while because we had no one to illustrate it. But then this is how everything like interlinked and came together because when I was working with the home ed community, one of the mums is an amazing artist. And when as soon as I found that out, I was like, made a beeline. I was like, please, can you illustrate our book? So she agreed, and then yeah, after about I think it took about a year, she'd finished that one, and then during that her during the year of her doing those illustrations, we wrote the second book, Bob Pays It Forward, along the lines of one act of kindness can lead to another and another and another and another until it comes back round to you. And then she illustrated that one, and she's currently illustrating the third one.
Oh.
It's all
And
about
what's the process like with making a book? Is it quite time consuming?
yeah, I mean, I would say the easiest part is actually writing the story itself, and then it's a lot of formatting, deciding what text is going on which page to then go to the illustrator and say, this is like what pictures we want to go with this, this, and this. And then Hazel, the illustrator, she'll say, oh, how about this? And what about we add this image here or have this? And then, yeah, it's a real process. Like we work very closely together. It's not just like off you go and then a year later you get it back. It's a very much like team like effort. And Hazel's incredible. She just gets all of my visions just even better than I could ever imagine. Yeah, and then I do all the formatting. So I use InDesign, and so I get all the pictures that Hazel gives me, and then I decide like where the text is going to go, and then do all the formatting, and then publish it on KDP, which is
Oh, I've
Amazon
never heard of that one.
Kindle Direct Publishing.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so you
Oh,
have to upload the manuscript, upload the front cover, and then it just works its magic, and you can order like a proof copy, and then
and can you get it as a physical copy?
yeah. Then so once you've got the proof copy and you've gone through it again and checked everything, you can then publish it officially, and then you can order author copies, which you get at print cost, or people can just buy it on Amazon, and then you get the physical copy.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you're an author as well. Very, very
Yeah,
nice.
I've got two just by chance.
Oh, let's have a look.
These are the first, well, that's the proof actually, but these are the first two. So
I think I've seen them before, but I don't know where I've seen them. I
it
don't
might
know
have been
why.
on Katie's tutoring page because she
Oh,
read
yes, of
one at her story
course.
time the other day.
Yes, I remember now. I thought I know that from somewhere. I don't know where I've known.
Love it.
Oh, well, it's been lovely chatting to you. So, the final question is, where can people find you? And you've obviously talked about what you're offering, but is there anything else you want to mention that you're offering as well?
Oh, one more thing I didn't talk about was I'm a dyslexia specialist. So I've done
Oh, okay, lovely.
I'm currently doing my level 7 to diagnose dyslexia. And you can find me on Truependous Tutoring. So I've got a website, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm based in Bideford in North Devon.
Ah, lovely. Well, I'll leave all your details down below. So if you'd like to check Laura out, make sure to check her out. And if you like today's interview, please make sure to subscribe to see who else I'm chatting to.